Now welcome to the podium Mr. Andy Kerr, class of 1973 and president of the Monmouth College Alumni Board, to help us kick off our awards presentations.
Thank you, Hannah. Our next portion of the program this evening is to recognize our outstanding alumni for their accomplishments outside of the hallways of Monmouth College. The first 5 recipients we are honoring tonight were nominated by members of the Alumni Association and voted on by our Alumni Board. Each year, the Alumni Board receives several quality nominations and has a very hard time choosing the award winners. I want to thank the board for their diligence in making these very tough decisions. And tonight's award winners can be especially proud to have been chosen from such a competitive list of nominations. The Alumni Board is responsible for making the final selection of our first 5 awards this evening: Family of the Year, Young Alumnus Award, Distinguished Service Award, Distinguished Alumnus Award, and the Hatch Award for Distinguished Teaching. For our guests who are wondering just what is the Alumni Board, we are a collection of 34 alumni spanning the past 6 decades. We are storytellers from the past who meet in the present to help ensure the future of Monmouth College. And now I'm happy to welcome back Hannah to the podium.
First on our agenda this evening is the Family of the Year. The honored family is recognized for their consistent and sustained involvement with and support for Monmouth College over several generations. The family selected as the Family of the Year exemplifies qualities toward which Monmouth students should aspire: commitment to service, leadership, and academic achievement. When talking about this year's Family of the Year, it's easy to take a deep dive into their many athletic accomplishments, not only as Fighting Scots, but in their careers after Monmouth. We'll get a small dose of that in a moment, but for a larger dose, I invite you to attend tomorrow morning's M Club Hall of Fame induction ceremony when Ashley Yates Tanny and Mitch Tanny will be 2 of the 4 Fighting Scots greats inducted. They will join Mitch's father, Don Tanny, who was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2002. I believe there's an outside chance that Alex Tanny will join them in the Hall of Fame, based on what I think most would agree are some pretty distinguished accomplishments, with his all-time NCAA touchdown passes record to go along with his ongoing NFL career. Oh, and the time he shot a record 5 for 5 on 3-pointers in the season he played basketball for the Fighting Scots. But it's another family trait I wanted to make sure to highlight: their excellence in the classroom. Only a handful or so of our graduates each year earn the distinction summa cum laude, and it's rare when those students are also Hall of Fame caliber athletes. But that was the case with both Ashley and Mitch, and Don was also an honors graduate before going on to receive a master's degree from Illinois State University. In the past few months, we've learned a lot about Alex's capabilities, as New York Giants officials have praised the behind-the-scenes value he brings to the team as a mentor and leader. It's easy to think of football when you think of the Tanny family. Using any standard you like, Mitch and Alex are 2 of the greatest quarterbacks in Fighting Scots history. And Don was an outstanding high school football coach. The brothers have even made their living from football for the past several years, with Mitch serving as director of football analytics for the Denver Broncos, while Alex has been an NFL quarterback since 2012. But just a quick word about the basketball prowess of Don and Ashley. Like Alex, Don can make the claim that one of his hardwood accomplishments is still in the Monmouth record book: his 23 free throws in a single game against the school that shall not be named. He averaged an incredible 25.5 points per game that year. And all Ashley did on the basketball court was lead the entire nation in rebounding and collect more career rebounds than any men's or women's player in school history. The many achievements of the Tanny family on and off the playing field have served to inspire and motivate generations of Monmouth students. And as someone whose job it is to work with our alumni, I can also tell you that their loyalty to and interest in the college is gratifying and admirable. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Don Tanny, who will speak on behalf of Monmouth's Family of the Year, the Tanny family.
As you can see, they're uncoachable. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here tonight. If you could go back in time and tell my high school teachers that I would be standing here tonight, I can tell you exactly what they would say. They'd say, well, I guess anything's possible. We'd like to thank the Monmouth College Alumni Board for recognizing our family for this award. You know, we all stand on the shoulders of the people that have helped us along the way. And the first person I want to recognize and thank is my wife, Crystal. If she'd please stand. We celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary in August. And she likes to remind me that if I'm the coach, she's the GM. And everything needs to be run through the GM. I've learned that. But I've also learned that when you want good advice, talk to your spouse. Nobody knows you better than your spouse. Nobody cares for you more than your spouse. And no one wants to see you succeed more than your spouse. She's been the glue for the past 40 years. And I want to thank her first and foremost. I've had the good fortune of seeing Monmouth College through two different lenses. First, through the lens of a student athlete in the 1970s. And then secondly, through the lens of a parent of two student athletes, Mitch and Alex. As a basketball player in the 70s, I had the privilege of playing for Coach Glasgow. No teacher or coach had a more positive influence on me than Coach Glasgow. I was certainly not the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest player on the team. And Coach informed me, Coach had kind of a subtle way of letting you know where you stood. He told me that if I got into a foot race with a pregnant mother, the best I could hope for would be third. Subtlety was really not a strength of Coach Glasgow. Coach was fair and square. He treated everybody the same way. There were no entitlements. Everyone was given the same opportunities. And when I showed up here in 1975, all I asked for was an opportunity. When I left here in 79, I think one of the many things that I took with me was that sense of fairness and earning your way. Secondly, we've seen Monmouth College through the lens of parents of Mitch and Alex. I don't think Crystal and I could have asked for anything more as parents. We absolutely loved watching those two play on Saturday afternoons. Both played on championship teams. Both competed in the national tournament. Both excelled in the classroom as well as on the playing field. And both developed relationships with their professors and coaches and teammates that are still very strong to this day. Coach Braun and his staff could not be more generous and helpful and supportive as they have been with Mitch and Alex. Without a doubt, Monmouth College has had a tremendous impact on their careers, and we're very grateful. Finally, I want to finish up by congratulating Mitch and Ashley on their M Club Hall of Fame inductions tomorrow morning. Both are very, very deserving. I want to thank our oldest son, Matt, and his wife, Julia. Matt has been the model big brother for 37 years. Certainly, I want to thank Alex and his wife, Rebecca, for everything they've done and many, many contributions they have made. As parents, we could not be more proud of our family. And again, we thank you very much for this award tonight.
Our Young Alumnus Award is given by the Alumni Board to recognize the exceptional achievements of an alumnus aged 35 or younger for significant contributions, accomplishments, and/or demonstrated promise in the recipient's chosen field. I am always amazed at the resumes of our Young Alumni Award winners. It seems they were only in school yesterday, and in a very short amount of time they've accomplished so much. Tonight's honoree is yet another example of that. We love homecoming for so many reasons, and one of the main ones is that we get to see so many returning alumni. But every now and then, we get the opportunity to welcome back our alumni in a different setting, when they come back to Monmouth to work for their alma mater. Our next award recipient did just that in 2013, and I remember it well. I was even quoted in the news release about it, referencing her love for the college. I'm pleased to tell you that love for Monmouth is still the case today. Her nominator said it well. She is the best representation of Monmouth College I can think of. She bleeds white and crimson while contributing to the development of excellent future Fighting Scots. To that final point, her position with the Wackerly Center connects her with the vast majority of our students who are hoping to find internships or that first post-Monmouth job. She is constantly looking for new and better ways to help them, bringing the same level of success to the position that she achieved in her other roles at the college. Most notably, among those, she launched the Fighting Scots Society golf outing, which is now a staple of the college's summer fundraising efforts, and she was an integral part of the development team when the Monmouth Fund first reached its ambitious $2 million goal. She also oversaw successful senior class gift projects, including the wonderful Scott Spirit statue at the south entrance of April Zorn Stadium. In welcoming our distinguished young alumna, I will once again turn to the words of her nominator. We are a better college for having her serve with us. I couldn't agree more. Please join me in celebrating the outstanding work of Jenny Erickson Sandberg.
Goodness. Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you to the Alumni Board for this wonderful honor. I'm so very humbled to have been chosen for this award. And each day I get to learn about the amazing accomplishments of my fellow alums. And I have the privilege of working with some of the most dedicated, intelligent, and passionate alumni on the entire planet. And when I stopped to really think about why I may have been selected for this award, I just found myself thinking about my coworkers. And I truly believe you are only as good as the people you surround yourself with every single day. And I'm so very grateful to work with people who appreciate me, but also motivate me to be the best that I can be. And I'm, of course, going to talk about my job. Within my role in the Wackerly, I have the privilege of meeting with many of our first-year students, if not all of them, by the time they graduate. And as we discuss their goals and aspirations for their 4 years in my office, the question I like to ask them is, why did you decide to make Monmouth College your home? And many students answer that question by saying, I was recruited to play sports, or it was really close to home. But the number one answer that I receive is, it just felt like home. And I'm sure most of us in this room who are alums can really relate to that feeling. I really know I can. And so I hope the feeling of being at home never goes away for our students as they walk across the stage or come back for alumni events. But the one thing I really hope that they value and appreciate by the time that they graduate is their liberal arts education. Because for me, Monmouth College has significantly impacted my life. As a first-generation college student, I had no clue what I was getting myself into when I moved to campus. I was, and really sometimes still am, a very quiet and introverted person. But Monmouth College has challenged me. It has taught me to think critically, how to make important decisions, and carefully consider how those decisions impact my community. Monmouth has built my confidence and challenges me, still to this day, to step outside my comfort zone. And most importantly, Monmouth has introduced me to some of the most amazing people I've ever met, including my college roommate who introduced me to my husband, who literally forced me to go on a date with an Augustana alum. Side note, it could be a whole other speech, but our first date did include tow trucks and a police car. With all that being said, though, there are many people I need to thank for assisting me on my path. Thank you to Hannah for taking a chance on me and hiring me for my first role in development. Thank you to William Haldeman and his mantra, the bachelor's degree is never enough, which really challenged me to pursue graduate work in higher education. And if you've never seen the plaque upstairs, I really encourage you to read it. Thank you to my student affairs colleagues, especially my Wackerly peeps, Marnie, Nicole, and Jake. Wherever you are in here, I love my Monmouth College work family. And thank you for my real family for supporting me in every single way possible. And last but not least, thank you to Monmouth College for being a place of high achievement, growth, and opportunity for so many young people.
The Distinguished Service Award is given by the Alumni Board to recognize outstanding service to Monmouth College by alumni, parents, and friends. Those who have received this award have shown what service above self truly means. We hope that our students grow this same passion and leadership as a Monmouth College supporter that has been shown by the current and past recipients of this honor. One big picture view of what distinguishes the service of our next award recipient is that his service to Monmouth College spanned half a century. There are only a handful of other faculty and staff in the college's history who can make that claim. Another big picture distinguishing characteristic is the level of scholarship he achieved during those 50 years. That scholarship includes him establishing himself as one of the leading experts on the Baltic Crusades and the Teutonic Knights. He has published 24 scholarly books, as well as numerous articles, including one that earned him the Vitals Award for the best article in the Journal of Baltic Studies. He's also an authority on subjects closer to home, including his 1980 history of Monmouth College and scholarly research on Monmouth's famous native son, Wyatt Earp. Additionally, the sport of soccer is alive and well in Monmouth, and the first soccer coach in the college's history was none other than tonight's honoree. But it's also worthwhile to reflect on his distinguished service to Monmouth College through the eyes of a single student, one who was profoundly affected by what his professor knew and how he taught. While taking the professor's seminar on historiography, the former student writes, "He changed my view of the historian's craft forever. From him, I learned that historians don't just read books and memorize what others said. Being a historian is an active discipline. Historians actively seek out the past and try to reconstruct it as a coherent and informative narrative. In doing so, they make important contributions to the human record." The simple historical fact will show that on October 18, 2019, William Urban received Monmouth College's Distinguished Service Award, but the narrative behind it is full of not only decades of teaching and scores of books and articles, but of generations of students forever changed. Please join me in celebrating all the important contributions that William Urban has made to Monmouth College's historical record.
My voice is about gone. This is asthma and hay fever season. But I'll try and make myself heard. I was asked to speak 3 to 5 minutes, and so I wrote out a speech, which they could probably give you if you want, but I decided to condense it a bit and work with that. It's nice to hear all the things that I've done, but when I think about
the other side of it, what Monmouth College has done for me, I get a very different approach to this, because I felt that after my 1 year of teaching at the University of Kansas as a substitute, 1 year Fulbright replacement, I really loved it. But when I came to Monmouth, I had so much more freedom and so much more opportunity to move into new areas. And I can just say there can't be a better occupation, a better career than in teaching. And as I was working in all of these areas with the fraternity and the soccer club, and then the soccer team, and then trying to raise 3 children, I couldn't have done it without my wife, who's back there somewhere. If she'd stand up. She taught German here for 30 years, and probably has enough academic credits in biology and classics to qualify for a diploma, but I couldn't get her to do the paperwork. Those of you who are in my classes know that I don't generally read my lectures. I learned that from my dissertation advisor, Archie Lewis, who was one of the few senior professors at the University of Texas who liked to teach freshmen. And he would come in and there would be 183 students, and I know because I graded all their papers. And he would have a 3x5 card, he'd look at it, put it back in his pocket, and then he'd launch into an introduction, because he only had one topic on any given day. And then he would explain it, and then just before the time expired, he would launch into a magnificent summary and wind it all up. And at the end of every semester, he got a standing ovation. And I must say that in 51 years at Monmouth College, I never got a 1. But the best, I'll say, compliment I ever got was when I went back to Kansas to give a classroom lecture. And one of the students came up afterwards and said, I can't figure out why you and Professor Nelson are so much alike. And then I remembered you were both students of Archie Lewis. And that I thought was as good as one could say. The best introduction to teaching, I think, though, came from Sam Thompson, who wrote a magnificent little essay that I put in the back of the college history so it wouldn't be lost. It was at a time when Dick Stein wanted to move everything into machine learning, and Sam Thompson came in and explained why you couldn't replace a professor, because only the professor can look out over an audience and see whether or not the point is getting across, and know whether and when you need to repeat a section, and also to speak slowly so that students can understand one point before you join on to the next. And it helped that I came from Texas and learning how to speak slow. But Sam was really a marvelous example of how a distinguished teacher can have an impact over many years. The main anecdote I wanted to say here came from DeBow Freed, who was a president here for some of the hardest years Monmouth College went through. And DeBow was known for only having one color suit. We know he had a half dozen, but they were all the same. Blue suits and beautiful shirts. And since he was from West Point, he was always fit, stood up straight, and determined in whatever he did. And so when DeBow Freed gave us his 30-minute prayer at the beginning of each faculty meeting, you knew you weren't quite up to the job of being responsible for young people in your care. You sort of wanted to drop your resignation and leave as you left the room. But he concluded one of these, giving his report. He said, I know you're interested in the salaries for next year. So we've decided to give you in about 78 or 79, $60,000, which floored us because there wasn't one of us that even came close to 60,000. And then he sort of had a twinkle in his eye and he said, of course, 1/3 of it will come from being able to teach at a college like Monmouth, with Monmouth students, and the colleagues you have, and the courses you're able to teach. And 1/3 comes from living in Monmouth. It's a community where you can live within walking distance of the school, in a nice community where your children can be safe, and where just nice people. And the rest we give you in cash. And that's pretty much the way I thought about it here in Monmouth. You know, we live in work in a nice college, live in a nice community, and people were willing to pay you to do it. Thank you.
Our next award winner is our Distinguished Alumnus. This award is given by the Alumni Board to recognize the exceptional achievements of an alumnus of Monmouth College who has distinguished him or herself through outstanding contributions and accomplishments in his or her chosen field. In addition, the recipient must have exhibited leadership qualities and/or evidence of civic, cultural, or charitable involvement. Here at Monmouth College, we are reminded daily about the intersection of science and business. This ceremony, after all, is being held in a remarkable facility that was built to highlight and foster the relationship between those fields. Our next award recipient has thrived in that intersection for more than 40 years. Today, he serves as president and CEO of Feed Energy Company, which delivers naturally derived antibiotic-free livestock feed supplements to the agricultural industry. It is one of the largest agricultural feed ingredient producers in the Midwest. He is also a co-founder of FEC Solutions, a leading marketer of corn oil from ethanol facilities, and is the founder and CEO of Riverhead Resources, which assists entrepreneurs in achieving their business potential. Also included in that type of work is his involvement with 18 different leadership programs, helping to develop future business, organization, and community leaders. Along the way, he has also worked at the intersection of agriculture and the environment. His lifelong interest in the environment has resulted in his extensive involvement in rural development, sustainable agriculture, and land use. He is one of the most vocal champions of funding Iowa's Water and Land Legacy, a conservation trust fund. Tonight's award is far from the first time he's been publicly recognized. Just to name 2 examples, he's received the Environmental Stewardship Award in Polk County, Iowa, for advocating environmentally sustainable agricultural practices, and he was inducted 2 years ago into the Iowa Poultry Association Hall of Fame. We are pleased that we can add to that long list of accolades tonight. Join me now in welcoming this year's recipient of the college's Distinguished Alumnus Award, Robert Riley.
Thank you, Hannah. That was a nice short bio. Of course, it just gouged the surface a little bit. What it doesn't mention is that I was always a curious kid, taking all kinds of stuff apart and trying to put it back together again, and not with too many leftover parts. I learned early, the hard way, about electricity with a kitchen knife. I had attention deficit disorder before they knew it was what it was. And this ADD, believe it or not, mostly helped me throughout my life. My right brain, you know, the experience and the imagination side, way outperforms my left brain, the organizing and priority side. So I was blessed with a mother who read a lot, wrote novels, reviewed novels, and with a father who was a very busy lawyer. So I was free to go into the woods and explore the ponds, the rivers, play Little League unencumbered by helicopter parents, and be willful. I was a willful, disruptive, independent, semi-juvenile delinquent basically for the last 70 years. So those were the perfect attributes that propelled me to obtain a BA in philosophy from Monmouth. But I didn't do it without the help of many along the way. I've got four people that I want to talk about. Professor Arthur Zephyr Landry, great name, Zephyr, my high school geometry teacher, who gave me a foundation in science and the skills needed to play billiards. Dr. Sam Thompson, who Bill just mentioned, was my philosophy professor, and he helped me discover a never-ending awe of systems thinking and logic through my whole philosophy major and my whole career. David Hurd, the CEO of Principal Financial Group in Des Moines, who got me re-involved with environmental organizations, the Nature Conservancy in particular, and taught me to, quote, figure out what you want to do, then give it all you've got. And then my son Joe reminded me that everyone has different taste buds when I was trying to get him to eat his broccoli, and that with sheer willpower and effort you can do anything. Those of us gathered here came through Monmouth relatively unscathed. The next generation that will graduate from here is facing a different story. There is great pressure from parents, from society, from the collectors of the student loans to get jobs that pay well so they can pay back the loans. Loans necessitated, by the way, due to an economic system that is broken. A summer job used to pay for a good chunk of tuition. Not anymore. This discourages many from pursuing degrees that promote systems thinking. Majors in the humanities like history, economics, political science, philosophy, and English. My wife would insist I include this. The present day students are pressured to be trained in a skill that might well be obsolete in another 10 years. And that is the way our low-road economy works, valuing the commodity it can profit from in the short run. But the systems thinker, the student who learns how to think on their own, glue together different components to make something work, will always hold a valuable place in society and commerce. So in light of the crossroads where we find ourselves, in higher education in general, in small private liberal arts colleges specifically, and whether we have students here or have a mix of alumni or staff and faculty here in the room, I would advise the same things. First, be willful, be disruptive, curious, and independent, and have a bias to action, seeking forgiveness after the fact. Try new stuff, please. Learn and practice appreciative listening. It will get you further in life than most other skills. Jam as much humor, humility, honesty, and helpfulness into every day, and give back to society using your time, talent, and treasure to make this world better than we found it. Monmouth College, thank you for this award and for helping me be who I am, equipped to take on the big problems we face today. Thank you. I almost forgot. In 2020, it'll be 50 years since I graduated from this place. So I'd like to challenge my class of 1970 with a $50,000 match to all new contributors to the Light This Candle campaign, and see if those guys from 70 can step it up.
Amen. Thank you, Bob. The fifth award we are presenting this evening is not awarded to a Monmouth College graduate, but rather to a member of our faculty who has had a significant impact on our graduates. To present the Hatch Award for Distinguished Teaching, please welcome Dr. Mark Wilhart, Dean of the Faculty and Vice President for Academic Affairs.
Have you taken a course with her yet? No, seriously, you have to. The number of times that I have heard this sentiment expressed from one student to another about the recipient of this year's Hatch Award for Distinguished Teaching is legion. Longtime chair of Communication Studies and director of the Women's Studies minor, her reputation as one of the best teachers, and I will add advisors, on campus has been echoed by generations of students since her arrival at the college in 1998. That arrival came after she did her undergraduate work at Central Michigan University, where among her mentors were the parents of the current faculty colleague, Robert Hink. You can ask about that story later. She also earned her master's degree at Central Michigan, then received her PhD from Bowling Green State University. Her appreciation for the mentorship that she's provided across campus is perhaps best reflected by one of her recent statements. I try to be, for the students, what I needed when I was a student. This award is chosen by the alumni, so it's clear how deep her influence reaches, not to mention the memories of her teaching. Certainly, her interpersonal communication course has been a rite of passage for many Monmouth College students. More importantly, her sense of humor, her deep commitment to learning, her broad knowledge of popular culture, her belief in her students' abilities, and the generous commitment she makes of her time and energies have made Trudy Peterson a worthy recipient of this year's Hatch Award for Distinguished Teaching. Please join me in congratulating her for this well-deserved recognition.
For those of you who know me, know I hate compliments and being in the spotlight. But I hate criticism more. So I will graciously endure the moments I have up here to humbly accept the award of the Hatch Teaching Award. When I came to Monmouth, or before I came to Monmouth, I interviewed with lots of different colleges at the National Communication Association convention. And I knew I wanted to be at a small liberal arts college where teaching could be my focus. And I remember interviewing at the National Communication Association with another ACM college with the chair of communication studies and explaining to him my passion for teaching and wanting to be someplace that was student-centered where I could research what I felt passionate about, when I felt passionate about it, and not be at a publisher parish institution. He interrupted me and he said, "Teaching does not a life make." And I was confused at that time because I wanted to be someplace where I could foster and mentor students and create lifelong connections with them. And publishing to me was secondary to that. And so when I got to Monmouth College, I was happy that I was able to make that choice of where my energies were going to be expended with teaching, service, and scholarship. And I chose teaching and service. Last week I met with Dwayne Bonifer and Barry McNamara to talk about this award and receiving this award and what it meant to me. And Dwayne said something that I've been thinking about ever since. I did talk about how I sometimes felt inadequate for not publishing more. I've always done scholarship, but I haven't published as much. And he said, well, it sounds like your students are your publications. And I thought about that for a while, and that felt right. But I think it's my relationships with students that are my publications, not just them. I have worked really hard, and it's not really work because it's my passion to get to know students on an individual basis and to help them become better people themselves. I always say that the best part of my job is to see students in their freshman year and to see them grow and mature and grow into their potential over the course of 4 years and become people I want to be friends with. And that, to me, is the greatest part of this job, what we do at Monmouth College and what makes Monmouth College special. This week, I have heard from so many former students who are now my friends, and it validated my choice in putting teaching above all else, of expending the time and energy of investing in individual people. And that, to me, is the greatest part of this, of this job. I wrote stuff down, but I never follow it because, yeah, that's what I do. And I'm thinking about some of the students that I have heard from this week, and I'm looking out in the audience. Zach Edmonds, who is on the alumni board in his crazy plaid hat back there, and I had him as a freshman in Communication 101, Fundamentals of Communication. His first speech, he brought in a toaster, and he delivered a speech hammering on the toaster, singing about toast. How do I grade that? I don't know. And now he's this great adult man who, with a family and is successful. And I remember him as an 18-year-old boy. And how did you get here? Abby Lepeka, I see at the back of the audience. I remember her in my small group communication class. I have an assignment where they do a jury deliberation. They tape themselves and they analyze their communication. It was like, I think, a 4-hour deliberation, the longest deliberation ever that they had to. So I remember these things of students that, these memories, these relationships that I've cultivated over time are better than any publication I could ever have. And I think that is what makes Monmouth College special, is that we get to know one another, and it feels like a family. I want to thank W. Jerome Hatch, class of 57, for endowing this award. I want to thank the Alumni Committee for choosing me for the Hatch Award this year. I want to thank my department, which we lovingly refer to as Commutopia, because I don't think I would be as good of a professor without them, past and present. I have fabulous colleagues who we talk about teaching and how to better teach concepts and theories and practical applications to student lives. I wouldn't be as good of a teacher without them. I want to thank my spouse, who has also won this award, and who supports me when even he says, "You're doing too much for students. Do you really need to have them over for dinner?" Yes, I do, and encourages me nonetheless. And mostly, I want to thank my students, current and former, who make me want to be an even better teacher. Thank you.
Monmouth College's highest honor, the Hall of Achievement, recognizes alumni who have demonstrated extraordinary leadership, service, or professional achievement. The Whiteman family created the Hall of Achievement to inspire present and future students by providing exemplary role models and to honor the outstanding and varied achievements of past graduates. Marie Curie, Jane Goodall, Sally Ride. You likely recognize those names, all of them notable women in science. Tonight, we honor one of Monmouth College's most notable women in science with induction into Hall of Achievement. She explored science as a biology major at Monmouth, adding a minor in chemistry before studying zoology in graduate school at the University of Iowa, where she received a master's degree in teaching. She initially taught, but when her family moved to Australia, she got into research growing human colonic carcinoma cells in tissue culture. An individual who embraces lifelong learning, her professional diversity did not end there. Back in the United States, she began a new career, writing code and programming computers to process annuity funds for the insurance industry. Her teaching, laboratory, and computer programming experiences served as a good background for her next line of work. In 2001, she started her own business as a consultant auditing clinical trials. Clinical Compliance Consulting, LLC, provides clinical compliance support to pharmaceutical companies developing new drugs for cancer and neurological diseases. Throughout her professional journey, she and her husband Stan have generously supported Monmouth College with a special focus on areas they are passionate about, opportunities for women in science and for global study and engagement. She has also given her time and talents serving on the Monmouth College Board of Trustees for 23 years and chairing its Student Affairs Committee. As we welcome tonight's honoree, who the college honored as its Distinguished Alumna Award recipient 6 years ago, I offer a personal observation. When she speaks, she's got a way of keeping you on your toes. You want to know what she's going to say. I know I certainly do, so please join me in welcoming the newest member of Monmouth College's Hall of Achievement, Karen Barrett Chisholm.
Wow, that was quite a flattering introduction. Thanks, Hannah. I didn't recognize myself. I doubt that my mother would have recognized me. I'd like to thank the Alumni organization for selecting me for this Achievement Award. And I'd like to thank the person who established the award, who over the years has been a great friend. He has arranged different sporting events for me while I've been here for trustee meetings. He's been my tennis partner. 50 years ago, he was my boss when I was working at the Student Center telephone operation. If you can think about back, if any of you are familiar with Lily Tomlin, that was me, plugging it in to the wall. Over the years, Ralph's been a strong supporter of Monmouth, and I thank him for establishing this award. Since the award was first given in 1992, 42 recipients have been awarded this award, and 32 of the 42 have been men, and 10 have been women, and I'd like to thank the Alumni Association for including me in this rarefied group of women. I'd especially like to thank the the Monmouth College faculty. They provided a very stimulating and personalized education with a very broad liberal arts background and a strong science curriculum that have set the foundation for several different careers I've had over the years. During my freshman year, I met in the biology laboratory a very handsome, irresistible biology assistant. After I graduated, we married, and I went on to Iowa City and did a master's degree in zoology. Then, for the next 6 years, I started into my first career teaching. I taught in California, Massachusetts, Maryland, and Vermont. And while I was teaching in Vermont, I also had a job in a laboratory up at the University of Vermont in virology. So that was my second career in basic science research. Then when we moved to Melbourne, Australia, I worked in labs at Monash University and at the Waldron Eliza Hall Institute. And there it was looking at colonic carcinoma cells growing in tissue culture and their white blood cells of the patient added to that tissue culture to study what the white blood cells were doing to the tumor cells. And the other job, it was looking at the surface receptors on the white blood cells, and this was when surface cell receptors were just being identified. Then when we returned to California, we had 2 boys, can't forget them, and they were in school, so I returned to teaching to be where they were in school, close to them. During the summers, I went back and brushed up on my math and started taking computer program classes since computers were coming into the world. So this led to a job in computer programming. This was my third career. Then when we moved down to Silicon Valley, there were lots of opportunities to combine these three careers and enter into the business of clinical research. So I started in clinical research, and one of my companies supported education for employees. I entered an MBA program at Santa Clara University and started on the crockpot years. The crockpot years, I'd go to work, then I'd head to class, and thank goodness Stan was home with his delicious gourmet crockpot meals, feeding the boys. I've been in clinical research for 30 years, and it's been an exciting time, especially in the treatment of cancer. I've seen it go from the single agent applied to several different tumors, and it's evolved to the point where they look at the genetics of the person and tailor the treatment to the genetics and chemical pathways that that person has. So it's been exciting to see that all evolve. I'd lastly like to thank Monmouth College for inviting me to be a member of the Board of Trustees. I've worked on the Student Affairs Committee with Jackie Condon, and I've been amazed at her calm demeanor in facing all of the situations you encounter when you're dealing with this age group and all of the possible things that can happen. This morning in the board meeting, I was particularly pleased when two independent sources that had very little reason to be doing this validated Monmouth College's commitment to the students' well-being and education by calling them out above several other different organizations that they have worked for. Thank you very much for this award.
I think there are many out there tonight who remember the sitcom Family Ties, the show with Michael J. Fox's character, Alex P. Keaton. Tonight, as we honor one of our most accomplished alumni, a man who received the college's Distinguished Alumnus Award in 2002, I'm reminded of that TV show, not because of his resemblance to any of the characters, but because of, I don't know what else to call them, his family ties. Our honored alum proudly wears ties with pictures of his grandchildren on them, a very literal representation of the fact that he holds family near and dear to his heart. We are grateful for that type of devotion because he considers Monmouth College to be his adopted family, and his devotion to his alma mater has been extraordinary. First and foremost, he served as the chairman of the Monmouth College Board of Trustees for 5 years, part of his nearly 35 years of service on the board. He is also chair of the college's current capital campaign. To date, the Light This Candle campaign is achieving well ahead of schedule, with nearly $53 million raised toward an overall goal of $75 million by the end of 2022. In both of those leadership roles, his desire for the college to thrive not only during his watch, but to be positioned to thrive for decades to come, has served his alma mater extremely well. His guidance has strategically positioned the college for future success in all the right ways. Tonight, we honor an individual whose connection to the college goes back nearly 60 years to the day he matriculated in 1961. During those 6 decades, few, if any, individuals have done more to make Monmouth the outstanding college it is today than our Hall of Achievement inductee, William Goldsboro.
Please notice. I got this introduction emailed to me a few days ago, and I had to repack my bag. And I had a different tie-in earlier today. I don't know if anybody in the trustees noticed or not, but this is the newest one I've got. The girls are in here about 12 and 14 years old, and I live 7 miles from my daughter and our granddaughters, and I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I am very honored and grateful for this recognition tonight. I first joined this board in 1985, and there were a lot of senior members of the board that were my role models. They were people I wanted to be like. There was Bill LeSueur, the class of 1942. There was Ralph Whiteman, class of 1952. Nancy Beck, class of 1953. Dave Bowers, class of 60. Roger Rasmussen, class of 56. Fred Wackerly, class of 61. There was also Lee Morgan, Peter Bunce, Saf Peacock. I was very fortunate to be able to work with these people. Now, I'm somewhat of a saver, and the trustees do have a directory that comes out every year. And in this directory, it lists committee responsibilities. It gives information on the senior officers of the college. And I went back to the oldest one I have, which was in 1998. And I looked at it, and their head of the admissions committee was Saf Peacock, who previously had been the chair of the board. Fred Wackerly was head of the development committee, and a few years later he was going to head up a capital campaign. Roger Rasmussen headed up student affairs. He had previously been head of business and finance, and he was also a former board chair. Peter Bunce headed up 2 committees, nominations and building and grounds, and he was also a former board chair. And at that time, my good friend Dave Bowers was our sitting board chair and part of his 13-year term as heading up the board. I think we're all aware of the challenges that Monmouth College has due to its remote location in terms of recruiting students, faculty, staff, and even trustees. We have a higher percentage of alums on our board of trustees than many colleges, and that's because of our remote location. 78% of our board is alums. Now, despite being in a remote location, we have had good success in getting non-alums on our board. The first 3 years of my chairmanship, Nancy, I'm drawing a blank here, Nancy Snowden, thank you, a graduate, a double graduate from Illinois, bachelor's degree and law degree, served very ably as our vice chair, and she also headed up our last presidential search campaign. In addition, somewhat surprisingly, of our last 8 board chairs, 3 of those were non-alums, Saf Peacock, Peter Bunce, and Lee Morgan. Now, as a student, most of you are probably not aware that I attended 6 different colleges, and as a faculty member, 2 others. Now, for my fellow trustees, let's just make sure that you're clear that I was never asked to leave any of those schools. I've been at big schools, small schools, public, private, urban, rural. My overarching conclusion is small is better. Now, I know I'm preaching to the choir in this group right here, but a student can get lost at any size school, but it's easier to get lost at the University of Iowa in Iowa City, at the University of Chicago, Hyde Park on the south side of Chicago, or at the University of Wisconsin, La Crosse, 3 schools I'm very familiar with. It's harder to get lost at a small school. Our faculty, our staff, they won't allow it to happen. At least it won't be easy to be lost. Small schools offer more leadership opportunities. I believe they offer more athletic opportunities. Over half our student body is Division III athletes. Small schools have a smaller ratio of students to faculty. There's very close relationships at a small school. Faculty, when you're a senior by then, they know you well, and they know you very, very intimately. A small school also gives you an opportunity to develop lifelong friends. The guys in my fraternity, we have reunions now every year. with spouses. And it's wonderful. I mean, we love each other, we rib each other, but we have a really good time together. One of the things that makes this event special for me especially is having Karen here. Karen's my classmate. We're both from the class of '65. She had served 23 years on the board. She's now emeritized. She was 12 years heading up the Student Affairs Committee, 14 years as a charter trustee on the executive committee. And it was pointed out, Stan and Karen have both been generous donors to the college. All you need to do is go up one flight of stairs and make a right turn, and there's the Karen and Stan Chisholm biology wing. Let's recognize them right now. Both of you stand up. Finally, it's been a real pleasure and an honor to serve on this board. I had a great experience here at the college. I got in with the right group. I went to the right kind of school. I went to a high school of over 4,000. I didn't need a large school of any kind. And I had a really good experience, and I hope that all that I've tried to do over the years that I've been on the board will allow more students to have the same wonderful, delightful, enriched experience that I had. Thank you very much.
I want to welcome everyone being here this evening. This is the Alumni Impact Awards are among the most special moments of the year for the two of us. And we want to add our thanks to our Board of Trustees, to the Alumni Board, to our great faculty and staff, and this weekend especially Hannah Maher and the Development and Alumni Relations staff for all the great work to make this such an enjoyable weekend. So thank you. Most of all, of course, we want to congratulate all of this evening's honorees. Our mission is the guided growth of young people, being a force for good in their lives, and through them, a force for good in the life of our nation and our world. These honorees are powerful evidence of the college's success in meeting that mission. And in the case of Professors Urban and Peterson, they are powerful role models for all of our faculty and staff in serving that mission. Because of them, through them, the flame of white and crimson will burn bright, will burn warm, and will burn forever. Thank you.
Let's all give all of tonight's award winners one more round of applause. It is occasions like tonight where we are reminded just how powerful a Monmouth College education is and just how big an impact a Fighting Scot can make. We are all extremely proud of the accomplishments of each of our honorees and wish them continued success. Before we all leave, I want to thank everyone again for joining us this evening. I would encourage you to continue in the celebration tonight and throughout the weekend. As a reminder, you are all invited to enjoy the Student Spirit Shout, which will begin at 8 o'clock at April Zorn Memorial Stadium. We hope to see you at many of tomorrow's events as well, and as a reminder, the football game doesn't begin until 2 p.m., but make sure you join us on campus early as we have an excellent event schedule planned. Many thanks for joining us, and congratulations to all those being honored this weekend. Have a great homecoming.